we delve into the conflict that started 70 years ago and remains unresolved to this day. Greetings everyone, I'm Tris. Today, we're going to delve into the complexities of the Korean War. This conflict originated from the division of the Korean people into North and South Korea, involving major world powers. Like the United States and the Soviet Union, the war came to the fore in the aftermath of World War II, due to the partition of the Korean Peninsula. Join me as we unravel the background, dynamics, and consequences of the Korean War in a manner that's both engaging and easy to understand. If you find this video interesting, it would be great if you could support us by hitting the like button. Now, let's get started. The Korean War, one of the most significant armed conflicts of the 20th century, had far-reaching consequences that extended well beyond the Korean Peninsula. Its origins can be traced back to the aftermath of World War II, when the Korean Peninsula, previously under Japanese colonial rule since 1910, faced a pivotal moment. As World War II neared its end, discussions were held among the countries that fought against Japan on how to handle Japanese territories, including the Korean Peninsula. The idea of a unified, independent Korea emerged, with several nations, including the United States and the Soviet Union, agreeing to jointly govern the peninsula until it could become a single, self-governing nation. However, the differing ideologies of the United States and the Soviet Union foreshadowed the complexities that would later fuel the division of Korea. The United States championed capitalism, advocating individual freedoms and private enterprise, while the Soviet Union stood for socialism, where state control over resources and the pursuit of equality among citizens were paramount. In a sudden turn of events in August 1945, the Soviet Union, which had maintained a neutrality pact with Japan until April of that year, declared war and launched a military attack on Japan just as Japan's defeat in World War II became apparent. The United States, concerned about Soviet forces advancing toward the Korean Peninsula from North China, realized that if the Soviet Union were to establish a unified Korea under its influence, it would pose a significant challenge to United States interests, especially in neighboring Japan, where the United States sought to build a country more aligned with its own ideology. To avert this scenario, the United States swiftly proposed a division of the Korean Peninsula into two parts, with the Soviet Union governing the North and the United States taking control of the South. The Soviet Union agreed to this proposition, and within 6 days of its attack on Japan, Japan announced its unconditional surrender, leading to the loss of the Korean Peninsula as Japanese territory. As agreed, the Soviet Union occupied the northern half of the peninsula, and the United States occupied the southern half. Despite the division, both the United States and the Soviet Union initially supported the idea of creating a unified, independent Korea. However, this aspiration soon gave way to conflicting intentions. The inhabitants of the Korean Peninsula were torn between those who aligned with the Soviet Union's socialist ideals, those who supported the United States and capitalism, and others who desired an independent Korea, shaped by their own vision. In 1948, two separate Korean states were established: South Korea in the southern part of the peninsula and North Korea in the northern part. Both governments laid claim to the entire Korean peninsula and aspired to reunification. But their differing ideologies and political systems set the stage for the impending conflict. The outbreak of the Korean War took the world by surprise in June 1950, when North Korean troops, without prior declaration, launched a full-scale invasion of South Korea. The South Korean forces, ill-prepared and inferior in military strength, were caught off guard, and the rapid advance of the North Korean army resulted in the fall of Seoul, the capital of South Korea, within 3 days. The situation appeared dire for the South, facing the prospect of extinction. At this critical juncture, the United States, reevaluating its defense commitments, had made a public announcement, declaring its willingness to protect certain areas such as the Aleutian Islands, Japan, Okinawa, and the Philippines. However, the Korean Peninsula was conspicuously absent from this list. North Korea, misconstruing the United States' stance, believed that the United States would not come to South Korea's aid, a grave miscalculation that would soon be proven wrong. In response to Seoul's fall, after careful deliberation, the United States decided to intervene and dispatched its military forces to support South Korea. Furthermore, the United Nations, established with the aim of preserving world peace, considered North Korea's attack an act of aggression and authorized the deployment of the United Nations forces from 16 countries to support South Korea. The Soviet Union, a member of the United Nations at the time and a supporter of North Korea, refrained from opposing the United Nations' actions, as it sought to strengthen its influence in Europe, while the international community's attention was focused on the Korean Peninsula. Thus, a multinational, the United Nations force, led by the United States, was sent to the Korean Peninsula to halt the North Korean advance. Despite their efforts, the United Nations forces struggled to stem the momentum of the North Korean army, leading to a series of setbacks and a retreat to the southern regions of the peninsula. However, the tide of the war changed dramatically during the Inchon landing operation, led by General Douglas MacArthur. This strategic maneuver involved a daring amphibious assault at Inchon, a crucial port city near Seoul. By disrupting the North Korean supply lines, the United Nations forces struck the enemy from both the north and south, regaining control of Seoul. This successful operation turned the tide of the war, giving the United Nations forces an advantage over the North Koreans. As the Korean War progressed, the South Korean forces, emboldened by the United Nations support and with a weakened North Korean army, initiated an invasion of North Korea, driven by the shared goal of Korean reunification. The South Koreans perceived an opportunity to capitalize on their recent gains. Taking advantage of the situation, the United States and South Korean forces launched a northward assault, capturing the North Korean capital, Pyongyang, and advancing toward the border with China. These developments raised concerns for the People's Republic of China, a newly established government embracing socialist ideology. China feared the spread of capitalist ideas near its borders, and more importantly, the placement of a United States-backed regime on its doorstep was deemed a direct threat to its national security. In response, China intervened on behalf of North Korea, deploying a massive number of volunteer troops to the peninsula. The Chinese forces launched a surprise attack on the United Nations forces, forcing them to retreat southwards and recapture Seoul, a significant shift that signaled the war's escalating intensity. The war then descended into a protracted and bloody conflict, characterized by alternating offensives and retreats, with no clear winner in sight. As the war wore on, the human cost escalated, and the situation on the Korean Peninsula seemed more uncertain than ever. As the battleground shifted back and forth across the 38th parallel, peace seemed elusive. After several years of intense fighting and negotiations, the parties involved in the Korean War finally reached an agreement on July 27, 1953. The Armistice Agreement brought an end to hostilities and established a 2.5 miles wide buffer zone between the two Koreas, known as the Demilitarized Zone, stretching approximately 155 miles from the east coast to the west coast of the peninsula. However, the Korean War cessation of hostilities brought relative stability, but did not lead to a formal peace treaty. Thus, technically, the war between North and South Korea continues to this day. The unresolved conflict continues to shape the political and social dynamics of the Korean Peninsula, leaving families divided and creating a complex geopolitical situation marked by tensions and uncertainties. North Korea, despite facing economic hardships, continues to pursue nuclear weapons as a means of deterrence and survival. South Korea, on the other hand, maintains its position as a thriving democracy and has become an economic powerhouse. The Korean War offers an opportunity to reflect on this critical chapter in our collective history. As we look back, we should remember the complexities of the conflict and its consequences, which continue to shape the Korean Peninsula and the broader Northeast Asian region. It is essential to learn from our history, to better understand the present, and to envision a more peaceful future. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. Take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye.